I've been wanting to do a deep dive of Emerald's Battle Tower and really explore all that it has to offer. This game's been out for over 20 years now, and to this day, getting the gold symbol, which is done by getting 70 consecutive wins and beating Anabel, is still one of the hardest things you can do in a Pokemon game. So that's what I set out to do. I'll be explaining my team as I go, and as it changes, while also getting into the actual mechanics of the tower itself. And lastly, I'll be highlighting and appreciating what I thought were the coolest and most interesting events that occurred leading up to my final battle with Salon Maiden Anabel. I thought a fun challenge would be to use a team consisting of only Gen 3 Pokemon. This left me with a lot of great options. There's always the classic Metagross, Swampert, and Latios team, but I wanted to see if I could make my own team with some guys I've never used before. And the uncertainty of how good the team really was made it all the more exciting. I knew I was bound to see some interactions I've never seen before. I'll be briefly explaining the thought process I had behind all the Pokemon I used for this challenge. There will be others besides these three, some with a more straightforward role than others, so I might not go into great detail with every single Pokemon in this video. Mawile has one of the coolest visual designs, a great sprite, pure steel typing, which is only shared with Registeel up until Gen 5, and access to Intimidate. But sadly, Mawile's not blessed with great stats or a great move pool. The Steel type in general is lacking a really good, consistent, widely distributed move. This is of course pre-Iron Head. It would be wild if Mawile could just have Meteor Mash, but thematically it wouldn't make sense. Mawile does have access to Swords Dance and Baton Pass. In the lead slot, I could play really flexibly. I could either Swords Dance up and pass it to Hariyama or Claydol, or sometimes Mawile could genuinely just sweep on her own. Turns out we can OHKO Aerodactyl with Hidden Power Steel, and wall Skarmory completely because of the Toxic immunity, and basically all flying types apart from Moltres. Mawile's biggest weakness is its low special defense stat and low HP. The low speed stat would also be a problem, so I gave a Salac Berry, which would be handy to turn the tables on faster foes. Sometimes I'd also just pass the speed boost to Hariyama, which was really good. Now let's talk about this Baton Pass recipient, who's of course an incredible Pokemon even without the speed boost. Hariyama has decent bulk, a high attack stat, but is slow. Priority Fake Out helps remedy this by providing some chip damage, and also to get some extra health back from leftovers. I went with Brick Break over Cross Chop just for consistency's sake. Hidden Power Ghost paired with Brick Break is actually perfect coverage, letting us hit everything in the game for at least neutral damage. And I put Rock Slide in the last slot to let us hit flying and bug types for super effective damage, and also one-hit KO some threats like Scyther, Charizard, and Moltres. I found myself getting insane value out of Hariyama in every game I used him. I got out of so many tough situations with Priority Fake Out and Guts boosted attacks. He was the true MVP of this team. With his high attack, massive HP stat, and low speed, Hariyama just might be the best user of the Fake Out leftover strategy. It's so handy to have a priority move on a slow Pokemon, and not to mention that it will always beat out Quick Claw, a very problematic item in the Battle Tower. I should mention that 2 of the 4 Slowkings in the Battle Tower are holding Quick Claw. It's not uncommon at all for the fate of a battle to be decided by this unassuming little held item. It has a 20% chance of activating every turn and letting the holder go first. But unlike in later generations, in Gen 3 there's no animation or any sort of indication that a Quick Claw has even activated, other than, of course, the slower Pokemon just getting to go first. My Claydol has investment in special attack and HP. I also gave it Hidden Power Grass. I think the idea I had behind this was, if there was an enemy rock ground type on screen, I could swap to Claydol in anticipation of Earthquake, and then hit them with a 4x super effective move. In theory this sounds great because we're immune to ground type moves with Levitate, and we resist rock, but Claydol really doesn't have the stats to be the super threatening special attacking coverage machine that I wanted it to be. It is cool that it can learn Ice Beam, because it has the natural bulk to come in on the dragons and get a KO. If attack and special attack were higher, I'd feel better about a mixed attacking set. If I could go back, I'd for sure either go all physical or all special, adamant or modest. I think it's easy to get hung up on wanting Ice Beam and Earthquake on the same set, and of course Stab Psychic is really nice too. I will say that Claydol was great for the early rounds. Sometimes it just worked perfectly, and even in the later rounds, it was a key member of the team. In some battles, I wouldn't have won without it. It just felt more matchup dependent than anything though. So now with all that out of the way, let's start from the beginning, round 1, and see how things actually played out. If you've even just messed around with the battle tower or any of these facilities, you'll know that the first few rounds are very easy. We're up against baby Pokemon and stage 1 evolutions with gimmicky movesets. If you have a halfway decent team, then you shouldn't have any trouble here. The 7th trainer of the Gauntlet might have something like a 2nd stage starter evolution, or maybe like Hitmontop. He's a common one for some reason. But again, this is very manageable. The real challenge begins on round 5 after 28 trainers beaten. This is when you start to see only fully evolved Pokemon and competitive movesets. At the end of this particular gauntlet, we get to see Salon Maiden Anabel for the first time. Meeting a Frontier Brain for the first time is the most post-game type of feeling I can think of. The atmosphere instantly changes when a second battle attendant lady comes in and urgently tells the other something. We see an exclamation point appear above her head, and she lets us know that their leader, the Salon Maiden, is on her way in hopes of battling us. And then she saunters in, walking slower than every other trainer, and of course with a unique sprite. She has quite a bit of dialogue upon meeting us. After introducing herself, she lets us know that she's quite unimpressed by the rumor she's heard. She won't so much as entertain the idea of us being a competent trainer until she sees it for herself in a battle. They really gave her so much personality. I think the game does a great job here of letting us do endless battles while also reminding us that it's a Pokemon game with a story and characters. It's easy to just start to see the tower as a battle simulator, but we are working towards something. That sweet, sweet gold symbol. Which we'll actually get to later, because for now we have to beat Anabel's first team. So here's the fight for the silver symbol. This battle feels very much like the dividing line that ushers in a new level of difficulty. There's a noticeable spike in round 5 as a whole, but this battle specifically is different from what we've seen so far. The most immediate attention-grabbing aspect of Anabel's silver team is the fact that she has an Entei, which is definitely not something we've seen in the tower until this point. The Pokemon that Anabel has in this fight all have 24 IVs, strong movesets, and solid held items. I'll be going over a few important moments from this battle after it finishes, so for now I'm just going to let it play. And with that, we receive the silver ability symbol. In terms of trainers beaten in a row, this is technically the halfway point, but the battles will only get tougher the higher our streak goes. Before we move on, I'd like to go over a few key moments from that silver symbol fight. I led with Claydol this round because Anabel always leads with Alakazam, and Fire Punch will one-shot Mawile. The reason I didn't use Fake Out here is because I don't know if Alakazam has Inner Focus or Synchronize. In all the battle facilities, if a Pokemon can have multiple abilities, like Alakazam for example, the game will randomly select one for that battle. So with that in mind, I went for Hidden Power Ghost to secure the KO. And here I swapped to Mawile to Intimidate, which also let Hariyama get more health back with the Fake Out Leftover strategy. I hesitated because I really wanted to preserve Mawile because it actually has a great matchup against Anabel's Snorlax, but it worked out regardless because I went for Belly Drum for some reason. It's also worth mentioning that Snorlax has Quick Claw and the Alakazam has Bright Powder. Neither of these items came into play, but this definitely could have been a loss or at least a different looking battle if they came up. I'd lose this run to the very next battle. I didn't account for this Fortress having Earthquake, Giga Drain, and Explosion on the same set. I could have prepared a lot better for this fight by looking up the pool of Pokemon that Bug Maniac Hank can use. There are 3 different variations of Fortress that Hank and Earl can have. As soon as we see Giga Drain, we know it has to be this quiet-natured Fortress with Zap Cannon as its last move. This is obviously an incredibly powerful tool to use and can influence your decision making to greatly increase your odds of winning. Sometimes you get lucky and there aren't any duplicate Pokemon, so you know almost everything about their Pokemon before you've even made your first move. On the other side of this, there are some trainers with as many as 10 possible variations of the same Pokemon. Let's take a look at Pokemon Ranger Nelson, for example. He has 10 different Tyrannitars he could bring, some with wildly different movesets. Nelson is a trainer that can only be encountered starting at 48 wins in a row. It's possible to fight him or a lot of trainers similar to him as the final trainer of round 7. And starting from round 8, you can expect a lot more of this. So as a rule of thumb, the lower your streak is, the more likely it is you'll be able to deduce the exact Pokemon you're fighting, down to its nature and EVs. But yeah, I didn't do any of that for this battle. The crit on Mawile was unfortunate, and switching Hariyama in as Fortress used Explosion didn't help either, but this was definitely winnable. This is a testament to how unforgiving this challenge can be. Playing carefully and understanding the opponent's possible options goes a long way. On my next attempt, I lose to Fisherman Hunter who had a team of all water types. Gorobus would set up Rain Dance on turn 1, which put me in a terrible position. Claydol's weak to water, and with Mawile's low special defense, she might as well be weak to water. Hariyama, while very bulky, can only take a few rain boosted attacks. When I saw Starmie come out, I knew this run was over. I actually had a very similar looking loss to this one before I got the silver symbol. It was against Cool Trainer Cooper who would set up Rain Dance turn 1 and had multiple water types on his team. In short, my team can't reliably win against water types, especially when Rain Dance is added to the mix. After some thought, I decided to replace Claydol with a timid Sceptile with max special attack and speed. Also, I bred in the egg move Leech Seed and gave it Hidden Power Ice. This lets me OHKO Salamence and Flygon before the 8th round when they start to have perfect IVs. The enemy IVs actually scale up with what round of the 7 trainer gauntlet you're on. Round 1, all enemy Pokemon have 3 IVs. Round 2, they'll have 6, and so on and so forth in increments of 3. Except on round 8, or after 49 wins in a row, the enemy IVs jump from 21 to a perfect 31. I gave Sceptile a Pitaya Berry to hold. Since we outspeed pretty much everything, I always have the option to sub down to 1/4 HP, which lets us eat the berry and get a special attack boost. This also stacks with Overgrow, which turns Leaf Blade into a nuclear weapon. I was able to get a hold of all the stat boosting berries by abusing a glitch in Ruby and Sapphire that allows you to catch Battle Tower Pokemon by losing to them and then immediately encountering the roaming Lottie and knocking it out. For whatever reason, this triggers the Battle Tower Pokemon that you just lost to appear. One thing to keep in mind is that it's going to behave just like the roamer, so it will try to flee. Once caught, it'll be holding whatever item it had in the Battle Tower, which is now yours for the taking. You just have to make sure they don't eat the berry in either battle. The glitchless option is to buy them in the GameCube titles and then trade them over to your GBA game of choice. Leftovers is also a great item for Sceptile, especially when paired with the Substitute Leech Seed combo. This can be an even more potent strategy than the Pitaya Berry, it just makes for some longer battles. In this example, the enemy Blissey is put in an unwinnable situation because Sceptile recovers back to full health every turn from the HP gained from Leech Seed. I was having a lot more success against water types now, but I'd soon run into a new problem. Heracross is an extremely dangerous and relatively common Pokemon in the tower. They're guaranteed to have Mega Horn, so the best thing Sceptile can do is switch out or get a Leech Seed off before getting obliterated by Mega Horn. I tried to think of a Pokemon that could switch into Mega Horn and then generate momentum in the battle, and came up with adding Salamence to my team. This would be Mawile's retirement. In the future, I'd like to put her on a different team and go all the way to get the gold symbol, because I stand by the unique set of traits she has and the value she can offer. I was able to get a respectable 50 wins in a row with this team, and had a lot of fun interactions along the way. Like the time we beat this Regice by passing a Swords Dance and a +1 speed boost from the Salac Berry to Hariyama, winning us the battle. Or when we swept through this Birdkeeper's whole team because we resisted all their moves. Keep an eye out for Mawile in the future. After coming to the conclusion that I wanted to use Salamence, I had to figure out just what kind of Salamence would be best in the context of the Battle Tower. I'm by no means an expert battler or team builder, but the Dragon Dance variant seems really consistent and high value. The opposing Pokemon basically never switch out, so if there's a Pokemon that doesn't really threaten yours, you can come in and set up on it, basically securing the win right then and there. There's still the possibility of a Quick Claw activation, Extreme Speed Arcanine, or even Quick Attack Scizor, so it's best not to get too greedy. Hidden Power Flying would be Salamence's strongest attacking move, and that's what I originally had, but it turns out Double Team is a really common move in the tower, and Bright Powder's everywhere too. Aerial Ace is a far superior option because it bypasses accuracy. Now, instead of it being terrifying when a Pokemon uses Double Team, it's a free opportunity to Dragon Dance. This one little moveset optimization exemplifies an overarching lesson and golden rule for winning in the Battle Tower: consistency. When you have to fight 70 trainers in a row, 90% Rock Slide's going to miss, 20% Quick Claw's going to activate, and you can count on a Bright Powder miss here and there too. In a challenge with so many dice roll and coin flip feeling scenarios, you want to mitigate risk in any way you can. This makes Lumberry one of the best held items. By saving in front of this old man in Lily Cove City, I soft reset until he gave me one. This is the only way to obtain a Lumberry in Emerald. A burn or paralysis can prevent Salamence from sweeping, so Lumberry will provide some insurance, and oftentimes will allow you to get a Dragon Dance for free if you think the opponent will go for a status move. It's practically an auto-include item for any setup sweeper. I know I've been talking him up quite a bit, and for good reason. It's Salamence, a pseudo-legendary. He's supposed to be great, but he's not without his problems. That 4x weakness to ice is really scary when ice-type coverage moves are so common. Ice Beam or Blizzard are on a lot of water types, and there are some really sneaky ones too, like Icy Wind on Marowak or Ice Punch on Hariyama and Machamp. Had I known going into this that I'd end up with 2 Pokemon weak to ice, I'd have given my Hariyama the ability Thick Fat so that I could more safely switch into these ice-type moves. It was at this point that I decided to use Regice over Hariyama. With a massive base 200 special defense stat, Regice can easily come in on not just ice moves, but all special attacking Pokemon that don't have fire moves. Regice is like a more offensive version of Blissey in that regard. Stab Ice Beam is extremely powerful, and Thunderbolt lets Regice easily beat water types too. Thunder Wave is a great option as well, as it lets us outspeed most Pokemon afterwards, and Explosion has a lot of utility. It's well known that Explosion halves the opposing Pokemon's defense stat prior to Gen 5, effectively making it a 500 base power move. But a lesser known fact is that it can deny the opponent from using the move they selected. This is a side effect of Gen 3's battle mechanics. When a Pokemon faints, for any reason, the turn just ends, so if the faster Pokemon decides to explode, the move that the slower Pokemon selected at the start of that turn ceases to even be a thought. This isn't really a commonly seen occurrence because Explosion is so powerful that it often just gets the KO. But if they don't faint, you'll notice that it straight up just denies them from making their move. This can be really useful to stop something from boosting their stats. I expected this situation to come up here and there, since Regice only has a base 50 attack stat. While it may seem counterintuitive to give Regice a physical move at all, it actually rounds out its moveset very well. Regice likes to fight other special attackers most of the time, until they start using Calm Mind. Despite having a super high special defense, there are still a few Pokemon that will outpace Regice if allowed to set up Calm Mind. Espeon is a prime example of this. 3 of the 4 possible Espeons have Calm Mind, and they all have Psychic. I think the safest thing to do in a situation like this is to just explode before things get out of hand. There are a few exceptions to this that can make blowing up a tough decision. There's Double Team and Bright Powder that can make you miss, or Pokemon with Protect. You just have to be careful and try to learn as much as you can about the opponent before exploding. At this point, my team was a far cry from what it was going into this challenge, which is totally fine. I knew this team was good enough to go the distance. The synergy was there for sure, and I would get pretty high streaks but end up losing to something random. Usually I would just be rushing and make careless mistakes, or just not bother to look up the sets of the enemy Pokemon. When I had to start a brand new streak, I wouldn't always record it, and on one of those occasions, I'd find this shiny Cacturne. You can find shiny Pokemon in all of the battle facilities, which is pretty cool. You can't catch them without the use of glitches. And now that I think about it, this Cacturne was my first ever uncatchable shiny. After losing time and time again, I put a Latios on my team and would experiment with different variations of the Pokemon I've used throughout this video. This was short-lived, and I don't have too much to say about Latios other than it's extremely good and maybe the best Pokemon to use in this challenge. The issue I kept running into was the rule of no duplicate held items. Lumberry is really good on Calm Mind Latios, but I'm already using that on Salamence, so I went with the Slackberry, which was not optimal at all. It rarely came up. I think part of me just wanted to beat this challenge, so I brought the Pokemon I knew was good without much thought, and it showed. I got a streak of 60 wins in a row with this team, so I knew it was possible to go all the way, but something just didn't quite sit right with me about it. I knew there could be a Pokemon out there that would round out my team better. I thought long and hard, and I would end up replacing Latios with one more Pokemon, solidifying my team. But before we get to that, I'd like to show off the most interesting thing that happened while using Latios. That's right, Gentleman Brennan, who wished to see the news, sent out a shiny Wigglytuff. This was only a week after seeing the shiny Cacturne, and that Cacturne was the reason I started recording everything from that point on. But this is absolutely insane luck, because I couldn't have battled more than a few hundred Pokemon, if that, since then. The shiny odds in the battle facilities aren't boosted or anything either. Just like a wild encounter, the odds are 1 in 8192. I just got extremely lucky, or unlucky depending on who you ask, since I can't catch it. I personally think that just getting to see something like this is incredibly cool. It just goes to show that no matter what you're doing, or what game you're playing, you never know when a different colored Pokemon will show up. So, about Latios. I realized there was a pretty specific archetype that would dismantle my team, that being hard-hitting normal types. It's very awkward for Latios because a lot of them have Shadow Ball, or they might even be Choice Band users, like Grand Bull with Mega Kick. Switching to Salamence isn't that good of an option either. Even with Intimidate, it's still taking a really powerful neutral hit and might not win the 1v1. No matter what Pokemon it is, this is a pretty difficult situation to play around. So when thinking of a solution, I asked the question, can I just one-hit KO them somehow? And the answer was a resounding yes. Before we get into the details about Medicham, and what will also be the final stretch of this challenge, I want to talk about the optional side quests of the Battle Tower, because there's some weird stuff here. Let's start with this NPC. This is the Apprentice, the protagonist apprentice specifically. They'll appear as one of 14 different possible trainer classes. I happen to get Aroma Lady Annie. They know who you are, and they're a big fan of you. They'll ask you a series of pretty specific questions, ranging from a minimum of 5 to a maximum of 14. After they feel like they're ready, they'll leave and will be assigned to a fixed spot in the battle tower. For me, she was always trainer number 3 in round 1. One of the questions she had for me was, what should she say after winning? I couldn't resist confirming this, and sure enough, if you lose this battle, they'll say whatever phrase you provide for them. After this, you'll find that there's a new apprentice. If you talk to them and answer all of their questions, they'll replace the former apprentice and then you'll fight them instead. I didn't bother doing this, and this is how I learned that they don't take no for an answer. You can also team up with them in the battle salon, where you'll do doubles with them. The apprentice's Pokemon will always have a random nature and also 85 EVs in all stats. The IVs don't seem to be listed anywhere online, but during multi-battle doubles, we can check the summaries of Annie's Pokemon, so I decided to investigate a little by plugging the stats, natures, and EVs into an IV calculator. To my surprise, Annie's Pokemon have all 31s or perfect IVs across the board. This leads me to believe that the apprentice's Pokemon will always have perfect IVs. If you've mixed records with another human player, you can also team up with an AI version of them. This is the better option if you feel the urge to get a high streak here. The other player will have 2 of the 3 Pokemon that they last used in the battle tower during their last attempt before records were mixed. You can also battle an AI of the person you mixed records with in the normal battle tower wherever they happen to lose their streak, as long as they didn't lose to Anabel. If you link up with another player, you can participate in doubles where you each bring 2 Pokemon and work together. There's also standard single-player doubles, where you'll bring 4 of your own Pokemon. There aren't really any rewards for this. Salon Maiden Anabel only appears in singles, so you won't get a silver or gold symbol for doing any of these bonus activities, but it's still cool that they're included. I definitely see a timeline where I try to get a really high streak in doubles or even multi-battles, but that'll be at a later date. What you're looking at now is the final draft for this challenge, and I can say with confidence that this team has an answer to almost everything. But let's zoom in on Medicham for a moment. The main reason Medicham is so good is this ability, Pure Power. The in-game description of this is that it raises attack. Looking further into this, Pure Power doubles the user's attack stat. It functions the same as Huge Power, but let's stop right there. What does that mean? If we look at Medicham's base attack, it's only 60. Okay, so that gets doubled to 120. That's pretty good, but why not just use Hariyama, who also has a base 120 attack stat, is much bulkier, and gets most of the same moves that Medicham gets? This is the question I asked before I understood how Pure Power worked. The number that gets doubled is the actual attack stat that you see on the summary screen, which factors in nature, EVs, and IVs. The base stats can be thought of as a Pokemon's potential, so they're of course still very important. With an adamant nature, 252 EVs, and 31 IVs, Medicham's attack stat gets up to 123 at level 50. Double that and we've got 246. So when comparing Medicham to other Pokemon, forget about Hariyama. What we're actually working with is an attack stat higher than Groudon's and Slaking's. In fact, the only Pokemon that has Medicham beat in this regard is Deoxys in its attack form. Add a choice band on top of all this, and you start to get damage calcs like this. As far as the moveset, Brick Break and Shadow Ball provide perfect coverage, Rock Slide for some specific targets, and Fake Out. Since I'm using a choice band, Fake Out is generally just for those matchups where I don't want to use Medicham, like for example against this Manectric. Brick Break does KO, but we're slower, so instead of risking paralysis from Thunder Wave, a static proc, or just a raw Thunderbolt, we can Fake Out for huge damage and then swap to Regice, our special wall. A very beneficial quirk about Fake Out is that it will never trigger static or flame body or any other contact ability you can think of. One situational use of Fake Out is just using it as a priority move to finish something off. And so for the first time ever, it felt like I was using a really good cohesive team. I'd still swap to Salamence against Heracross and others to set up Dragon Dance. I'd Fake Out and go to Regice against fast electric types and some bulky waters. But for some battles, it was as simple as locking into Brick Break turn 1 and mashing A until I won. There is, however, one battle I want to talk about. This battle starts off normally enough. I lock into Shadow Ball to one-hit this Gardevoir, but then Snorlax comes out, forcing me to switch. This is one of the drawbacks associated with the choice band. My two main damaging moves both have other types that are immune to them, so regardless of which one I lock into, there's always a chance that a situation like this can come up. Out of the 8 possible Snorlaxes that can be fought in the battle tower, excluding Anabel's, 3 of them have the move Curse, and 4 of them have Quick Claw. The one I'm fighting here has both. I didn't know that in this moment, but I was fearful of the possibility of it cursing up and this battle getting out of control. I had the perfect play for this. My plan was to swap to Regice and blow up immediately. Regice is faster than Snorlax, so I could go first and explode, which obviously won't get the KO, but it will make the turn end, denying Snorlax's selected move. That way I could safely bring Medicham back in and finish it off. As I switch to Regice, Snorlax goes for Curse. Now for a new turn. I go for Explosion, and Quick Claw activates. This was bad. Not only did it get a second Curse up, but the extra defense boost it got made Explosion do even less damage. I send Medicham back in. I wasn't sure if Brick Break would even KO anymore, and I wouldn't get to find out, because Quick Claw activated again, and we fell to Shadow Ball. The odds of 2 consecutive Quick Claws are 1 out of 25. Now it's just my Salamence against this buffed up Snorlax, and there's still an unknown final Pokemon in the back, so I'm already mentally accepting this as a loss. I go for Rock Slide, hoping for a flinch, and I can't believe my eyes as I see Snorlax's health bar go down. This is a crit, and a flinch. I don't know if Earthquake will KO from here. I hesitate, not knowing if I should go for Dragon Dance first. I'm also afraid of another Quick Claw activation. I go for Earthquake, but it doesn't KO. I barely live a double edge, and it's all thanks to the attack drop from Salamence's Intimidate, and Snorlax goes down to the recoil damage. At this point, my small chance of winning increased a bit, but it's all going to come down to who the final Pokemon will be. And it's Shuckle. Salamence has a Lumberry to deal with Toxic, but if this is the one with Rollout, then it's all over. Preparing for the worst, I go for Rock Slide, and it connects. No flinch, and it goes for Double Team. That tells me that this can't be the one with Rollout, because if it had it, it would have seen a kill and went for it. I scramble a bit here, not knowing how many Dragon Dances I can feasibly get before it starts to go for Toxic. But miraculously, I'm able to win the battle, which concludes round 8, putting me at 56 wins in a row. For making it this far, our participating Pokemon will each receive the winning ribbon. This is only available in the level 50 challenge. If this were the level 100 challenge, we'd get the victory ribbon here instead. I'll talk more about level 100 stuff later. I didn't have any more close calls like I did in that battle against Pokefan Mallory. Round 10 was going especially smoothly. A chance for the gold symbol was fast approaching, and after beating the Sailor, it was time for battle number 70, the Anabel Gold fight. Just like before, the same cutscene happens with the exclamation point, letting us know that something is different, and then Anabel walks in. I think her dialogue is really good here. With this first line, it's as if she sang it to herself, involuntarily. It's like it's sinking in for her in real time that the trainer in front of her is a serious challenger that poses a genuine threat. Again, this is a seamless transition from battle simulator to RPG, and it couldn't have been done better in my opinion. The music you're hearing now is what plays whenever you battle a Frontier Brain. It has the perfect tone for a high-stakes battle like this. Just hearing this in-game makes me feel like I need to focus harder and exist in the moment. Anabel has an updated version of her team in this battle, and this time her Pokemon all have 31 IVs. Although everything about her team is available online, even down to Raikou always being the first Pokemon she sends out, this is still a very dangerous battle. One crit or paralysis could spell disaster. I'll be doing a post-battle analysis after this finishes, so for now I'm just going to let it play out. And with that, we get the gold ability symbol. Through trial and error, we did it. So what's next? Well, there's actually one more achievement in the form of a secret base decoration if we can get a streak of 100 wins in a row. There are a few other bonus things I want to cover as well, but before I get too ahead of myself, let's go over some key moments from the battle that just earned me the gold symbol. As I mentioned previously, Raikou is always going to be sent out first. I went for Brick Break here to get some damage, and also it would have been huge for me if Raikou went for Reflect here, since Brick Break would shatter the wall, essentially giving me free damage. In hindsight, this was a little reckless because I'm risking a crit or paralysis. A Fake Out and a Regice switch in would be a safer play. I thought preserving Medicham would be crucial to winning, for a few reasons. Brick Break is a free KO on Snorlax, and we don't have to worry about Quick Claw, because their Snorlax is holding a Chesto Berry. Also, Medicham is faster than Anabel's Latios by 1 point. That of course didn't come up in this fight, but it gives Medicham a lot of potential value regardless. I correctly predict that Raikou will go for Rest here. It uses up its Lumberry and gets hit by a well-timed Thunder Wave. This crit was pretty fortunate, but I don't think it really changed the course of the battle all that much. My goal was to get it to rest again, so that I could bring in Salamence to set up Dragon Dance while it was asleep, and that's exactly what I ended up doing. From this point, the only thing that could have stopped Salamence would be a crit Dragon Claw from Latios. I ended up getting another crit of my own. Even if I were to somehow lose Salamence here, I'd still have 2 Pokemon left. If that happened, there would still be multiple paths to victory. I would take this win streak all the way to 121 wins before losing to this team consisting of a Choice Band Aerodactyl, a Kingdra, and a Marowak. And that's where my record stands to this day. If we visit the ranking hall, we can see the highest recorded streaks for all the battle facilities, including those from other games we've mixed records with. If we go and visit Scott, he'll award us with the Silver Shield for 50 consecutive wins and the Gold Shield for 100. They'll be sent directly to our secret base, allowing us to proudly put them on display. I'd go on to get all the other gold symbols with this team, making slight modifications along the way to tailor to whatever facility I was doing at the time, the main one being deleting Explosion from Regice's moveset for the Battle Palace. For this video, I went over things from the perspective of the level 50 challenge, because that's just the one I happened to do. If I did the open level challenge, or what I referred to earlier as the level 100 challenge, there would be a few differences. This took me forever to realize, but Dragonite and Tyranitar are absent from the level 50 challenge because Dragonair and Pupitar don't evolve until level 55. Also, some movesets are updated to reflect legal level up movesets. Basically, the AI will never bring a Pokemon that the player couldn't also bring themselves. For all the Pokemon I used in this challenge, I used RNG manipulation to get them. This let me get Pokemon with perfect IVs, or in a few cases, hyper-specific IVs, so that I could get the hidden power that I wanted. I mostly used my copies of Emerald and Sapphire to make this all possible. You actually can't get Meditite in Emerald, so I got one in Sapphire, and also a male Makuhita to pass down the move Fake Out. For RNG manipulation purposes, breeding is a lot more straightforward in Ruby and Sapphire. With a few well-timed A-presses in these games, you can pretty much make anything happen. Have you ever wondered what the highest win streak in the Battle Tower is? I got 121 wins in a row, which got me every possible item, ribbon, and achievement, but this is just scratching the surface. There exists a small group of players who have pushed this way beyond what the developers had in mind. The highest known win streak is 3,010 wins in a row. The record was set by a DDD over 3 years ago. He essentially solved the Battle Tower with his team of Skarmory, Blissey, and Latios. While he was building this streak up, he encountered a glitch at 1,792 wins. When he started battle number 1,793, which is round 257 by the way, he was greeted with a Venonat, and would subsequently battle only first stage evolutions and other round 1 Pokemon for that entire round. It was as if the game reset back to a streak of 0 wins and put him back at round 1, but his win streak was perfectly intact. He would also go on to document the following Anabel fight to see which team she'd use. As you progress in the tower, you'll of course fight Anabel on every 35th battle, but you only fight her silver team, the one with Alakazam and Entei, once, at exactly battle number 35. If you lose and climb back up, you'll fight the silver team again at battle number 35, but from that point on, every encounter you have with her will feature her gold team. The glitch that Edididi experienced would suggest that her silver team would appear again, but to his surprise, it was the gold team. This is the only known instance of something like this occurring, and I find it really interesting. I'd like to try to replicate this one day and see it for myself. This is something I didn't really touch on because it's pretty intuitive for the most part. The higher your streak, the more battle points you get, and if you win against Anabel, you'll get more. The max amount you can get for one round is 25 BP. Accumulating battle points is a really slow process in this game. It's kind of unfortunate because there are so many secret base decorations, dolls, and really strong move tutor moves that are only obtainable with battle points. To get the moveset of your dreams, there's a good chance you'll have to exchange battle points with one or maybe even both of these ladies. If you have your heart set on getting any of these things, it's going to take some time. The prices vary, but nothing is cheap. The items that are exclusively obtained with battle points are particularly expensive. And that's pretty much it. It's the first really fleshed out iteration of the Battle Tower. Crystal gave birth to this concept, and then Ruby and Sapphire heavily expounded upon it, which would set the stage for what I consider to be the best Battle Tower of all time. The Battle Frontier as a whole is put on a pedestal anytime there's a discussion about post-games and Pokemon. The fans yearn for something like this to come back. But even if we do get another Battle Tower, it won't be the same. And I'm not saying that that's a good or bad thing, but more so that what Emerald achieved is lightning in a bottle. The experience simply can't be replicated. This is pre-physical special split, but post-Gen 1 and 2 battle mechanics, where every Pokemon can max out all their stats. Gen 3 exists in this unique bubble, with its own unique mechanics, graphics, sprites, animations, personality, you name it. I think it goes without saying that all those traits we know and love are put on display during battles.